Hello and good afternoon from Helsinki. Welcome to this NAPA webinar about MARPOL record keeping and NAPA logbooks. My name is Jussi Siltanen. I'm working as a senior product manager here at NAPA in our safety solutions unit. And with me, I have my colleague Tommi Vihavainen. Tommi is development director in the same unit, and Tommi is also a product owner for the NAPA Logbook product. Today we are going to tell you a little bit about NAPA, about MARPOL, and then we will be showing you also how NAPA Logbook functions. Before starting, so I have actually a couple of questions for you. In the form of a questionnaire. So if you go to the polls tab in this webinar jam session, so I have made a questionnaire for you about your, if you have or if your company has been using electronic logbooks. So I will tell you if you have a moment to answer to these questions about your use of the electronic logbook. And during this webinar, if you have any questions for us, so please don't hesitate to use the chat channel in this webinar jam session. And towards the end of the webinar, then myself and Tommi, we will try to answer as many questions as possible that you may have. And I will be coming back to the results of this poll very shortly. So please keep answering to those questions, to that question, and we'll come back there. But meanwhile, just a few words about NAPA. The name of our company comes from Naval Architectural Package, and we are one of the world leading software solutions, service and data analysis provider for ship design and operation. Now, basically, our company is divided into three solution areas. First of all, the NAPA Design Solutions, which is especially familiar for ship designer, naval architects. And this unit provides the NAPA Naval Architecture and NAPA Steel solution. NAPA Naval Architecture is used for optimal contract design, statutory compliance, and health, form, and performance. Also, the NAPA Steel solution is used for structural design and optimized structural design. Then, NAPA Shipping Solutions unit is especially focused on the enhanced ship data management, ship and fleet-wide performance analysis, as well as dynamic optimization. Also, one of the solution part is also about this increased transparency and technical and operational performance for the ship owners, operators, and charterers. And there, the solutions which you might know from there are the NAPA Fleet Intelligence, NAPA Voyage Optimization, and then the Class K NAPA Green solution. And then the third unit is focused more on the different solutions on board for an reliable and easy to use decision support. And there are the solutions which you might know are NAPA Loading Computer, NAPA Emergency Computer, and NAPA Logbook, which we will discuss today. Now, a few figures about NAPA. Our company is or has an experience of over 30 years. We have our headquarters here in Helsinki, but we have offices in 10 countries. In 2019, our turnover was approximately 26 million euros. There is approximately 190 of us Naparians. Some of the facts that not everyone might know is that 95% of the new builds which are yearly built are done so by NAPA customers. And currently we have approximately 12,000 active users for the different NAPA applications. Now, About today's webinar. So first of all, we will be going through a little bit the regulatory status about electronic logbooks and focusing, of course, a little bit more on MARPOL, and then looking at the benefits of the electronic logbooks. And then we will really have a look at NAPA Logbook and doing a demo on NAPA Logbook, especially focusing on the MARPOL logbooks. Before going on to the actual topic, so I'm just looking at some of the results that I have got from the results of that little question I had for you. So it looks like in this session, 50% of you are using electronic logbooks in your daily operations. So that's a very good number, and of course, that is probably not the real number around there, but we are very pleased that there is a big interest in electronic logbooks, and also that more and more companies are starting to use them. Also, approximately 13% are using electronic logbooks, but only for a limited amount of record keeping. Then 1/5, 20% are not using electronic logbooks, but are considering them. And then 13% have not yet considered the electronic logbooks. Now, as said, if you have any questions during this webinar, so please feel free to type them on the chat tab here in this webinar Gen session. Now, let's go on, first of all, to look a little bit about what has been happening in terms of regulation around electronic logbooks. So this is something which I will be dividing into two. First of all, the international regulation, so mainly the regulation taking place at the International Maritime Organization level, which has done a number of resolutions handling about record keeping, and then also about electronic record keeping. There are some resolutions which are focused on overall, in general, about the navigation related record keeping, and for example, also port state control procedures, but then also about voyage data recorders, and this is something more recent, and it basically states that if you have recently installed a new version of a VDR, so, and you have electronic logbooks into use, so the data from the electronic logbooks should also be logged in to the voyage data recorder. And then now, if going more in depth into this area of the MARPOL record keeping, so one resolution from the IMO, which I would especially like to point out, is this MEPC 312/74, which are the guidelines for the use of electronic record books under MARPOL. There is also some other amendments to other MEPC resolutions, but this MEPC 312 is an important document, and if you are now considering of implementing MARPOL record books or electronic record keeping of MARPOL, this is a document which I would really recommend for you to find and have a look through and read it through. Then, of course, another part of the regulation is the rules done by the flag administrations. So, of course, there you will have to refer to the marine notice or the resolutions or technical notices of your flags and see how the approval procedure goes on, because this is a little bit different from flag to flag. And anyway, the final acceptance on the use of the electronic logbook is made by the flag. However, this MEPC 312 has now stated that MARPOL record keeping can take place electronically. So going on further about, of course, if you don't exactly know about these flag administration rules and regulations, resolutions. So at NAPA, of course, we keep following that information. And if you have any questions, so please feel free also to contact us at NAPA. Now, going on further about these MARPOL electronic record books, or if you want to say MARPOL electronic logbooks. So this IMO regulation, as said, enables the use of electronic recording of all the MARPOL related data. And by all, I mean 8 different points of record keeping, starting from oil record books to cargo, garbage, ozone depleting substances, recording of different engine-related data, also about fuel changeovers and engine parameters. However, the flag or a recognized organization on behalf of the flag should approve the use of the logbook solutions that you have on board, the electronic logbook solution that you have on board. By recognized organization, so those are usually stated by the flag that your ship is using. And usually it is, for example, a class society or several class societies which are approved by the flag. And usually also your ship should then carry a declaration done by your flag about the use of MARPOL electronic record books. Now, I would like to go further a little bit about the procedure on switching from paper to electronic logbooks, which is, of course, a big step to take. First of all, about the benefits. So, of course, here you will see a reducing in the workload of record keeping. This usually when I have been meeting some officers who have been using the electronic logbook, so they have very concrete examples in this workload reduction. First of all, it can be that a lot of the data only needs to be recorded once. So instead of going around the ship, for example, reading some engine figures, etc. So usually it might be that already some figures come automatically to the logbook, and therefore they just need to be accepted. Also, an electronic logbook is usually available anywhere on the ship where you have an access to the network of the ship, because it's a part of the ship network. Then also one of the clear benefits is that it prevents mistakes, and it gives also an increased transparency about the data. And then, of course, it's an important tool in the operational development and in the optimization of the fleet, because a lot of this information can then be passed, for example, to shoreside in order that they can be further analyzed. Logbook can be an element, for example, in the big data vision of your company. The electronic logbook, in order to have as many benefits as possible, should be integrated into the existing operations and also the network of the ship, so that as much as possible of the information will come directly into the logbook, but also that it's an integral element of your working processes on board. Because basically everything that you have been recording on paper can be recorded electronically. So you have the possibility to switch over completely from paper to electronic record keeping. Now, about this transition to electronic logbooks. So I have illustrated here sort of 5-step process on usually how our customers are moving to the use of electronic logbooks. First of all, what you will probably like to do is an evaluation within your company about your digital vision and how electronic logbooks fit into this digital vision. Then, of course, you need to not just know what are the basic requirements about record keeping, but also what kind of information would you like to have from your fleet as shoreside. And then, of course, it's important that you know what the requirements are from the regulatory point of view and from your flag point of view. And I repeat again here that you can contact, for example, us at NAPA, because we follow a lot the regulatory development around the electronic logbook, but we discuss also directly with some of the major flags in order to know what kind of requirements they have in order to accept the use of electronic logbooks. Then the second step is about the defining these requirements. So that will usually, for example, take place in the form of a workshop where we will look at the requirement and your additional recording needs. So, of course, you have these minimal requirements which are needed by regulation, but you may have some additional needs which you want to record. Also, we will have to look at what are the different sources of information on board so that those can be taken into account when installing the electronic logbook. And in this case, so it's quite important to remember that some data must come automatically to the electronic logbook, such as the GPS data. But in order to make your life easy on board, so it could be a lot more of the data which comes automatically, for example, from your automation system, giving, for example, some data about your engine status or, for example, tank rating status. Then when we have done the definition work, so it's usually then, for example, in our case at NAPA, to do the configuration work, which is done ship specifically, and then to get the acceptance for these different data entries that we will be using in the electronic logbook. Then the fourth stage will be the installation on board. So the configuration on board and looking also that the different interfaces to the other systems on board are working. Doing, of course, a thorough round of testing, then training your crew and officers, and then, of course, helping that you will get the certification by the flag state. And then, of course, the fifth step, which is about the using and the monitoring of your using, so the day-to-day use on board, evaluating if there is potentially some new data entry needs which you need to be done, but also following that there might be some changes in rules and regulations, so that those will be then taken into account in your logbook as well. Now, what are some of the basic functionalities which you should have in an electronic logbook? So first of all, the logbook should be able to use at least some data automatically from different sources on board. And there, the GPS is one of the most important one. GPS and time is one of the most important one. So that it will, of course, enhance or make sure that your data is accurate. And that's actually something which is already mentioned in this MEPC 312, which states that GPS data, timing, and time data has to come there automatically at all time in the logbook. Then, of course, you have to be able to create these data entries manually or correct some of the data which has been recorded automatically. In order to have reporting, so that needs to be consistent, and your data recording also needs to be consistent according to the rules and regulations. Then, of course, security and prevention of tampering is very important, and also monitoring that basically the people who are allowed to access the logbook can do so, and that we can monitor who has been doing certain kind of data logging there. And of course, the backup of the data is very important. I was mentioning before the backing up of the data to the VDR, and there is some more information in the IMO resolutions, which I stated a little bit earlier. Then, of course, the verification of the data, so that you are able to verify the data before accepting it, and also applying a signature there, or a digital signature in the case of the electronic logbook. And also one important detail there is that you are able to attach different kind of documents to the logbook entries. Now, that was the basic needs that you need to have in an electronic logbook. But of course, the electronic logbook and their use can be enlarged to different kind of other work processes on board your ship. Those could be, for example, checklists. We know that on board you will often have some routine work processes. So we can implement different kind of checklists, which are then fully or partially recorded into the electronic logbook. Those could be, for example, a checklist about arrival or departure, etc. Then one point which is more about the transparency of the data. So a lot of the data which is recorded in the logbook is useful basically for everyone on the ship and useful at that situation. So there, the logbook can help populate the information on an electronic whiteboard. We know that on board you usually have the whiteboard where you write certain kind of statuses of what is happening on board, but this can be done electronically, and the logbook can help you in that. Then, of course, voyage reporting, and then the sending of those reports to shoreside. Then EU-MRV or IMO-DCS reporting is one important point as well. And then one point which we will come back a little bit later is the reporting to shoreside about the different fleet operations. And for that, for example, at NAPA, we are using a cloud-based solution where all of your data is then recorded in a cloud. And then that data can be then further used on shoreside, for example, for different kind of reports or analytics. Then, of course, a last point, which is very important, is the different integration to third parties, whether it's on board, so done by different APIs, or then if it's, for example, from the cloud, so that data can be reused in other type of reporting reporting instruments or solutions. Now, I think it's time to look a little bit closer to how this all works in NAPA Logbook, and Tommi will be showing you a little bit more about, well, first of all, about this authentication part, about logging in and how these different users are configured there. Then looking a little bit about the user interface of NAPA Logbook. So, showing you some examples about the MARPOL logbook, how to create, for example, these data entries, and then looking also at this version history of entries, so when correcting the data or signing the data. And we'll have a short look about this Office, which is the cloud solution. So Tommi, I think now it's your turn, and I think you will be switching directly to NAPA Logbook, and we will be having a look at the examples over there. Your turn, Tommi.
Okay, thank you, Jussi. And also hello to everybody from my side. So, like Jussi said, I will be now giving you a brief demonstration of the logbook system. And I have only like 15 minutes, so of course it will be very basic presentation, and there are a lot of more advanced features that unfortunately I don't have time to show today. But some of the things that I present are very specific to NAPA Logbook and representing our solution. And then some of the features are fundamental to all logbooks as they are required by the rules and regulations and flag state requirements. And one of those fundamental things is the logging in. So I need to log into the system, and every user must have individual user account. So we cannot have role-based accounts that captain would have, like generic captain's account, but it has to be really tied to your personal yourself, your first name and last name, because this is a legal document used for legal purposes, so we need to know exactly who entered which information and who signed the logbook and so on. So now we landed to the main user interface of NAPA Logbook. And you can see we are now operating the oil record book part 1. We can see it from here. We can also see here the date and time. And the source is GPS, so like Jussi explained, this is the minimum level of interfacing that we need to have accurate time source and also the ship's position source. Those are required. There can be additional levels of interfacing like engine automation, signals connected to the system, so that will make the use of the system even easier and faster and reducing mistakes. But this is always optional, and depending on the owner of the ship, what level of integration is required. The main area here is then reserved for the actual logbook content. So now we are looking at today's oil record book entries of today's December 17th, and we have basically here a chronological list of entries that have been made into the logbook. And in this, we can see today 3 entries for oil record book. We can see the time when the entry has been made, the name of the entry or kind of title, bunkering of fuel oil, for example, cleaning of fuel oil tanks, who has entered this entry, and then some key summary information like short description, what was the content. There's more information for each entry, so if we double click the entry, we get to see the exact details, what has been entered, the full content of the entry. And we'll come back to this a little bit later in more details. So logbook entries are collected here. On the left-hand side, we have what we call entry templates. So for each logbook, we have dedicated or customized list of templates. So basically a custom input form for each entry type that we can make into the logbook. So for example, for these MARPOL logbooks, typically these are very clearly specified in the MARPOL and its annexes. For example, this oil record book, so we know exactly the list of things we need to enter in the logbook and the information that is required for each and one of those entries. So this is again to help the users guide in the process of making entries and reducing mistakes, etc. So only the necessary information is asked and so on. So the workflow is that when you want to create a new entry, you double click that entry, it will pop up the template, and you will add the, let's say, the manual entry input fields, and some fields are already filled for you. But I'll still come back to this a little bit more later on. I first go some of the basic features of the logbook system before we go to actual daily use. So one kind of unique or at least very fundamental thing for NAPA Logbook is that this is a system that covers all logbooks. So it's not a specific application for oil record book or garbage record book or deck logbook, but idea is that we have everything in one system. So you can see here we can, for example, select deck logbook. We will then see the deck logbook content and the possible entries for the deck logbook. There's quite a few of those. Or we can select engine logbook or record book, and we have a bunch of these MARPOL specified logbooks here: garbage record book, cargo, ozone depleting substances, etc. So everything is in one system in our case. And the benefits and why this has been done like this is that main reason is that all data will be in one system, one database. And benefits of this is that, first of all, we can use it for sharing information, increasing awareness throughout the ship, because everybody is using the same logbook system, no matter if they are on deck side or engine side, for example. And you can see what's going on. So you don't need to necessarily call up the bridge and ask if what's happening, have they crossed some limit, sea area limit or something like that. You can see it immediately from the logbook when they have entered that information there. Another principle is that because it's one system, so we can share information. We don't need to duplicate data or input data several times. For example, classic example is the ship's arrival to the port. That's typically the bridge officers need to enter that in a deck logbook. Maybe that's also needed in engine logbook to record this information. And if they are done separately, so maybe the times are not matching, and even if the times are matching, anyway, it requires more work. But in case it's a one system, so it's necessary that only the deck officers enter the arrival entry, and it's automatically linked to the engine logbook and only input needed once. No conflicts of different information and reducing workload. Of course, it's also less maintenance, like for IT people. You don't need to install multiple systems, and less training for the crew, because once you know how to operate one book, you can also operate the other logbooks. One question that may arise from this is that, okay, if everybody can see all data, everybody can operate all logbooks, so is that safe or secure? So we have, of course, solution for that. So I can quickly show the user management. So I started by explaining that every user must have unique user account in the system. And then when this user account for each person is created, so for example, idea is that we have, for every person, we have assigned roles, and the role is then defining what level of access he or she has to each logbook. So we can have full access to each logbook, partial access, we can hide certain logbooks from some users if we want. So a couple of examples. So let's say we have a bridge cadet. We have now assigned deck logbook, engine logbook, etc. view access to all logbooks, but only for deck logbook he also has input rights but no approval rights. So very basic access, while then senior officers have full access to almost all logbooks, and engineers, for example, have full access to engine related logbooks, but they only can see the deck related logbooks, but no input rights. So there is a very advanced way to control also the access to the level what is sufficient for each user, but still have the possibility to increase the awareness throughout the ship and the crew. But then let's go to the actual like the work process. How do they then actually work this on daily basis? So when they enter records in the record book, so how does that work? So I'll first start with example. For example, well, simple example, garbage record book. So they need to enter something in the garbage record book, and we have 4 different entry types here. They select the correct one. Let's say we have done discharge to the sea. So we open the entry, template, the latitude, longitude, and time is already pre-filled. Current time 17:05 and current ship's position is there by default. But let's say we are a little bit late. The actual discharge was done 17:00, so we can modify the time, and system will automatically fetch the correct latitude and longitude for 17:00. So it's recording all these values in the database, so you don't need to like make notes of, for example, ship position at certain time if you that what you would then later on add to the record book. So time defined, latitude, longitude, and then all we need to do is define the estimated amount of garbage. So let's say it was 1.5 cubic meters of food waste, and that's it. We have just created now a new entry to the record book. We can open it if we want to verify something, see the details, and that's it. Let's make another one. For example, we have incinerated garbage. For incineration, we ask a little bit different things, almost the same, but we ask also start time and end time, so not just one time. So let's say we started incineration 16:30, and the position was automatically fetched, and then we enter end time. And okay, now I'm typing it. It's already making a note here that if I have 16:06 as the end time, so it cannot be earlier than the start time, so it will not allow me to save this as such. So it's validating things in the input fields for me to prevent mistakes. Now times are entered, and again enter the amount of garbage. Let's say it's 1.2 in this case. Always there's possibility to add remarks. If there's something unusual, you can add notes to accomplish the entry, but it's normally not mandatory, only if you have something to add. Also, every entry allows you to add attachments. So for example, if you have some incident or something, you can add pictures, or you can have receipts. For example, I don't know, for bunkering, maybe you want to add the bunkering receipt as a PDF there. It's not mandatory, but can be done. So now we have created another entry in the garbage record book. Let's use one more example. So let's use the oil record book. And also oil record book, we have already 3 entries for today. Let's make one more. Let's, for example, make the bunkering of fuel oil. So same principle is applied here, of course. It will pre-fill you the information that is available from GPS. Some things we need to enter from using manual input. Place of bunkering, Rotterdam. Then we have to select type of fuel. Let's say it was low sulfur, heavy fuel oil. And then we need to select the tanks. And this is now where also the electronic logbooks are good, because you can have the ship-specific configuration entered to the system. So for example, in this case, we don't need to type which tanks we used. We can just select from the available tanks that are actually on that ship. So we have, for this ship, we have defined, we have 4 heavy fuel oil tanks. And maybe we use the first tank 1 starboard. So we select that, and then we go to the next page. We need to add for each tank the quantity. I'll enter, let's say we bunkered 60 cubic meters, and the total is 15. Okay, now on purpose, I entered incorrect values just to demonstrate the validation. So like I said, we have ship-specific configuration here, so the system knows the actual capacity of the tank. So if we try to enter 60 tons in the tank, it's not allowing it because the real capacity is 35 cubics. So it will not allow 60 tons. So 30 tons, cubics. So that's okay, and it allows. And also the total quantity cannot be less than the bunkered quantity, so it has to be higher than the added quantity. And now everything is fine, passing the validation, and now we can save the entry. Otherwise, it will not allow saving it. One question or observation is probably what many of you are thinking, that this doesn't look like the traditional oil record book or garbage record book. So the input format is something different. And this is very true, at least for NAPA Logbook. We have intentionally selected that we apply this kind of generic layout. Every logbook works in the same way. Then this makes it easy for us to, for example, add easily new templates, add new logbooks, whatever are the needs of the owner. We're not tied to any predefined format. But these MARPOL guidelines for electronic record books, they require that there must be still output from the system in this standard way or in standard format. And if I now print this page here, and you can see it will open here in the PDF viewer. So it's an electronic output in PDF format, so you can exchange this by email, copying to a folder, network folder, or anything like that, or you can print it to a paper. But you can see that the printing format is now following this MARPOL oil record book specified formatting. So we have all the header text is following that, columns, etc. These letter codes, item numbering, etc. Everything is following the MARPOL formatting. At the end of the entry, there is a kind of signature field, so we can see who entered or made this entry. And this is then covering all the logbook entries for that day. And this is done for every logbook where there is predefined format, like most of these MARPOL logbooks have predefined format. For example, garbage record book is having similar but a little bit different format. So this is the garbage record book part 1 formatting that is followed. If there is no special format defined, then we have a standard default printing format. Next, I can present some of these fundamental things that are required for electronic record book. So you can create entries. Often there's asked, okay, if you make mistake, what happens then? Can you correct that? Can you delete entries? And answer is simply that yes, you can edit. So as long as the captain has not signed the logbook day, so then the crew members can still modify the entries. So if you notice some mistake, you can certainly correct it. Let's use this garbage discharge to see as an example. So let's say we made mistake that the discharge was not 1.5 cubics of food waste. Let's say it was 1 ton of food waste, but then we had 0.5 cubics of cooking oil, or just for the sake of example. So we can change. And now the entry here is showing the modified values, but the history is never lost, so it doesn't replace the original version from the database. So we can open here, we can see we have two different versions for the entry. So we have the original one from 1706 and then the current one from 1714 by same user in this case. But we can then open the original version. It's read-only mode. We cannot modify that. And we can, for example, compare. We can see the values for the original entry there. And this is available. So there's like for this official prints, when we print the official version, all these modifications will be visible also in these prints. So for example, in this case, the original entry had B category 1.5 cubics, but then the corrected version has B plus D categories, 1 cubic and 0.5 cubics. So this is following the normal way. For example, in paper logbook, you strike through the mistake and then make another one. Same applies for deletion. So you can kind of delete entry, but it doesn't really disappear from the system. So you just mark it as deleted and it will be printed in very same way with this strike through font. I think this is covering most parts. Before I end, I will show what is the role of the captain. So the captain has a little bit special role. As you may know, that in traditional paper logbooks, captain is like physically signing every page in the logbook. So there's a line in the bottom of the page or somewhere on top of the page where captain is then signing the logbook day and entries and approving that he has verified everything is correct. And okay, I need to first sign out because now I was as a John Jackson first officer, so I'll sign out from the system. And now I need to re-log in, so I will log in with another user account. So now I'm simulating to be a captain, so logged in as a Tommi Vihavainen captain. So first of all, we have here actually view of all logbooks. So like I said, all data is in one system, and if you select instead of one single logbook, you select all logbooks. So for example, captain has nice view of everything that's happening, whether it's engine department or any other department who is using the logbook. So it can be monitored what's going on. Yeah, before going signing, actually, there's one additional thing that, of course, because every data is in the database, so you can very easily make searches to the database. So unlike in paper logbooks, very difficult to browse through the history. But for example, if now the captain wants to see summary, how many drills they have completed, let's say since the beginning of November up to this date. So what we can do is just enter drill as the search word here and make the search, and we get instantly summary of the drills. So a couple of fire drills have been completed, passenger muster drill, lifeboat boat launching drill, etc. And you can see, of course, details. You can print this again and so on. But to this signing, so the equivalent of paper page signing for us is the signing of a logbook day. So at the end of each day, in practice, the following day, next morning, captain can sign the logbook day. And I will now first of all open. So this is the yesterday's December 16 entries. Not very much of them in this installation now, but you can see what entries have been recorded. Now this is the all logbooks in common list. And if everything looks fine, the captain will just click to sign the page and it will close the day from editing. So no user can anymore then add entries to the logbook or edit those. So only captain has permission then to unsign the day after which corrections can be made, but this is normally not needed. And once it's been signed, so for example, if I now print this logbook day print, so we have here the default printing format. We can see the entries for that day, and then on the bottom of the page we have the digital signature text here. It's been signed by the captain now on December 16, and we can actually see the details when it has been either signed or unsigned, so full history is there. And just the last comment is that the PDF files are also tamper-proof like everything else in the logbook system, one of the requirements. So the PDF files are also signed digitally using the software code. So if you send this PDF file now from ship to anybody, they will and they are able to verify that document has not been modified since it was certified. So the PDF signing using digital signature is also guaranteeing that also the output file is tamper-proof. I think, Jussi, I'm now done. We have 10 minutes to go, so I think I hand over the presentation to you.
Thank you, Tommi. And let's go a little bit further then. Yeah, this one part which I still wanted to show you that all of the data, of course, can be then sent to shoreside, and that's why we have this NAPA Office cloud-based solution. And basically on the shoreside, then you are able to view the data from a single ship or to view your whole fleet data, and there you have different kind of possibilities of filtering that data, looking at or searching the data as you would have in the NAPA Logbook on board, or then to export the data to provide certain kind of analytics that you may need then on the shore side. Now, there has been a few questions coming through during the presentation. So I propose that we go through some of them, because otherwise we will be running out of time. And let me have a look at the first question which I had here. One question is that are the logbooks that we are showing only for recording data, or can observation of watchkeepers be done there also? So Tommi, is it so that in all those data entries we have this remarks tab where basically you can enter free text?
Yes, every entry has these remarks, plus then we have also additional entries, like if you have something which doesn't have a predefined entry template, so we have this free text entry always available, that it's available. And all of these entries are like combination of automatically collected data like the ship's position and then the manually added remarks or any manual input that is entered.
Thank you, Tommi. And then there was one question. Did I understand correctly that electronic logbook can be used, for example, on the bridge, and or the same electronic logbook can be used on the bridge and in the engine room? Yes,
so this is the principle, at least in our system. So we have the server client architecture. So we have one server with the database and then any number of installations for the client or user interface application, and they are connected to one system or one database then. And yes, so we have like deck logbook, engine logbook, MARPOL logbooks are all part of this system. So all users are using the same system, and maybe from a little bit different angle, but everything ends up in the same system, and you can see all the data.
And I think one solution which can be mentioned here also, which we didn't have so much a look, but the NAPA Logbook also has a mobile application which can be downloaded in an iPhone or an Android phone or tablet. And basically, when you are in the ship wireless network, so you can do data recording from the application. So the application is not the logbook itself, but it helps in order to do the data recording there. And of course, you can view different type of data as well. Then there is a question in regards to the printing format. So can printing formats be adjusted? And there was the example that the garbage logbook, just 4 entries, was taking a full page. But there, I think it's important to know that we are printing the report, which contains basically all the information that is recorded. Or is it so, Tommi?
Yeah, it's well, basically everything can be customized and adjusted. So even the logbook content, the entries, what information we collect in the entries, and then of course all the output formats can be customized. And typically when our customers are starting to use the system, they want to add some things or they want to change something. So I don't know if this was really mentioned in the presentation before, but this is one of the kind of benefits of this kind of system, that you are not tied to certain fixed system. Of course, we have the standard templates, standard printouts, but let's say everything is possible.
Then there is a question that how long does the data have to be kept on board? Well, there, of course, that's something which is regulated by your flag. So they will have the answer for that. Usually, I think it's in terms of a few years that it has to be kept at least. But Tommi, from the NAPA Logbook point of view, are there any limits on that?
From technical side, we don't have any limits, and the database or the hard disk space nowadays is that's not a limitation. So we don't have any like maintenance in the system that we would delete data. There's no need. So 10 years, 20 years, that's not the problem. So we keep everything, and the flags may have different minimum requirements, but that's not the problem for this kind of system.
Then another question, but a comment here that hope that many customers will decide to implement the electronic logbook, and that it will be possible to easily transfer the data to the MRV and DCS verifiers. Thank you for this comment. And actually, we are planning that for next year, we will then have a webinar which is more dedicated to EU-MRV or IMO-DCS. So please keep following us. We will try to have that webinar during the course of next year. Then still one question, are we the only provider of this all-in-one system, meaning that all logbooks in one interface? So NAPA has been around with the logbook solution for approximately or even more than 10 years. So that's why we have acquired a lot of experience on this, and we have been able to add the logbooks when our customers basically have had the needs of adding these logbooks. So I can't exactly be speaking for all the providers of the logbooks out there, but yes, we have a comprehensive system where basically all the logbooks that you have been having in papers can be then now replaced with one solution. Now, I think we just have a few minutes, so I just would like to mention here that we have been doing quite a few of these webinars. So the previous webinars and also this webinar are recorded. And if you go to our webpage, napa.fi, and go to the Insights and Events part, So you will be able to find the recordings of our previous webinars. We've been doing a couple of webinars about the NAPA loading computer, but also about NAPA emergency computer as well. And then also last week there was a very interesting webinar about voyage optimization. So please feel free and go and have a look at those webinars there, or then you can even share those with your colleagues. Now, I would like again to thank you for your attention, and I would like to wish you all a very happy holiday time, winter time, Christmas time for you all, from the whole NAPA team around the world. Thank you very much for attending this webinar.
Thank you.